So we're going to be talking about how to do personalized emails from Salesforce Data using Apsona. We have everybody muted initially, but feel free to add questions into the chat. We really would like to answer as many questions as possible. There will be a recording that we're making, and we'll send it out to everybody when the webinar is complete. So please feel free to ask questions, as I said. So the topic today is how to do personalized emails. See if we can minimize this thing. I guess not. All right, so let's do a quick look at what we offer at Apsona. We have a whole bunch of different products in our product stack. There is a basic Apsona for Salesforce product that is this part right here, which offers a bunch of stuff about related to data management, cross-object filtering, mass operations, and things like that. There are a couple, 3 add-ons on top of that product. There is the document generation product, there's multi-step reports, charting, and badge gift entry, which is useful to folks in the nonprofit space. Today, we will basically only be focusing on the document generation piece, specifically the email generation piece. So we won't be looking at any of the other functionalities. We're trying to be limited to 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes, and hopefully answer some questions at the end of it. So let's dive right in. What do we mean by email here in this context? In a typical problem space where you want to send off emails, what are the sorts of emails you want to send from Salesforce? You might want to send marketing emails, which are things like newsletters and solicitations and such. And they are typically minimal as far as personalization goes. You're sending out a newsletter which is targeted to everybody on the list. You're not really mentioning anybody by name or giving any personal information. So that sort of situation is where you would probably use something like MailChimp or iContact or whatever, and they have fancy templates and polished graphics and such. And in that situation, Apsona is probably not a great fit. Whereas the other 2 cases where you're sending transactional emails as a mass email, maybe you're sending an invoice, maybe you're sending a tax summary at the end of the year, maybe you're sending a gift receipt. So those are all cases where there's personalized data. You're in a gift receipt, for example, you're going to mention the person by name, and you're going to say, this is the gift, this was the amount, this was the date on which it was received, and so on. And that is a case where you would probably use Apsona tools. Similarly, one-off emails, where you want to send basically the same email to everybody, but in a short burst. There's not a lot of prep time needed for sending off the email, for example, a meeting invitation or a reminder. You could use an Apsona add-on for that purpose. So then let's jump right into the demo. And let's see if I can find my, too soon. All right, not thank you yet. So here's a demo org. I'm going to show this demo off of 2 different demo orgs for different reasons. In this demo org, and actually both these orgs have basically dummy data, and so we're really not concerned too much about the data itself so much as the functionality. So in this demo org, we have nonprofit data. It has the nonprofit starter pack installed in it. So my first demonstration will be to do the simple one-off email. If I go into the contacts view, let's start by saying, simple case, I want to send an email to all of my recipients using a simple one-click process. I can go into Tools, Compose Email, and I have an email composer that pops up. And here I can say, give it a subject, give it a body of a message, and then send it off. And it'll go to all the folks that are selected here in the list of the contacts behind. So just as a test, let's try that out. I'm going to find a specific email address that I want to send to. Obviously, for this demo, I don't want to send to everybody on the list because there's a lot of data, a lot of emails there. Let me just pick this one. Check that box, hit Tools, Compose Email, and say, thank you for attending the webinar, right? Recording will be provided. And if I fix my spelling there, like that, and then notice that it's going to be sent to this one person here. So if I move this off there, the email address that it is going to is apsona@apsona.com. And I've only checked one contact. I could obviously send this to a lot of contacts, all of them in the filter here. But given that I don't want to generate a lot of email for this demo, I'm only going to be sending one. But what I want to highlight here is the fact that there is a little HTML composer here. So I can select a piece there and italicize it or make it bold or whatever, right? Or I can paste in additional HTML content. So if you click the source button and you are reasonably HTML savvy, you can make this template really fancy if you wanted to. So let's unclick that, and here's the HTML view for it. And if I check this box that says add to activity history, of course, it'll add this email to the activity history for this user. So let me not give myself a copy and then hit send. And it'll give me a little feedback here saying it sent 1 total messages and 0 failures. Fortunately, I have the email for that mailbox open here in this tab. When I go over there and look, there's the email that was sent out with the HTML in it. So let's delete that. And let's go back here. So that's the use case where we have a single one-off email sent to all of the folks in this list. The other thing also to keep in mind is that when you send this email using the Compose Email button, all of the recipients who receive the email will receive them as if it was sent specifically to them. In other words, the to address list will contain only the name and email address of the one person to whom that email was directed, even though you sent it to multiple people. So a recipient, to the recipient, it will look like it was only sent to them. They will not see the rest of the recipients in the CC or the BCC list. And that's often important because you don't want to send emails to people showing other people's email addresses on that list. The other thing to note also is that this pop-up sends email through the Salesforce email mechanism, the single email mechanism, and more on that later. The other way of sending mass email is using the Salesforce native mechanism, which is this thing called send mass email. And what this does is it simply pulls up a pop-up in which it shows you all the available Salesforce native templates and lets you pick one and send it off. But it uses the Salesforce email mechanism. There's no Apsona mechanisms involved here. So any template fields that you have used in this email template will be replaced with the field references from within this object. So for example, what's an example? So let's say I do product inquiry response, right? So if I send that, it would have sent off the one email, but you see that it took a moment to show up here. And there's the product inquiry response that showed up. And this is the standard product inquiry response template that was used to send it off, and we got the one email from there into this mailbox. So no customization there at all. Just for completeness, you might want to look at the the email template. Let's see if we can find that here real quick. It will be in there, communication templates, email templates. And if we look for the unfiled public ones, let's see if I can find the product inquiry response. That one right there. So you see that here, this email template has this one field in it, and that has the standard Salesforce notation in it, lead.name. So we're sending off an email to that one lead. Two other points to note here before we get into the more general emailing mechanism. In the tools menu, these two items, the compose email and the send mass email items, appear for only the contact and the leads objects in Apsona because they are not available for any of the other custom objects. Whereas the other one that I'm about to talk about will appear for all objects. In other words, you're able to send customized email, personalized email using the document merge or mail merge mechanism using any custom object. So we'll get to that in just a second. Let's see, there were a few questions here. Okay, not much to worry about right now. Okay, so now let's talk about how to generate the more templatized emails. And here, I want to talk about a particular use case, which I want to address using a template. So the problem here is that we want to address here. We want to send off let's say a tax letter or a year-end gift summary, right? So if you look into the email templates object here, which is where all of the templates that we use will be stored. You look at, well, I guess I need to switch over to the other org here. This is where we have the templates there. So if I look in setup here, give it a moment, and let's look at this one here. I have a couple, 3 example templates to illustrate variation in styles. So here's one. Here's one. Let's duplicate this tab so that we have stuff side by side. If you look at this email, this invoice example, it's an HTML email. And if you scroll down, it looks like that. So, so there's assuming you're able to see my screen and it's been caught up. Here's a template email in which we were sending an invoice in this case, and we're saying we've got a company logo here at the top and company name and address and so on in the middle centered, and we have placeholders here for the customer name, the customer email, the date of the invoice, and details about the invoice items. So all of the items that need to be spelled out, the name of the item, the date of service for that item, and the amount for that item are all spelled out here. And they are enclosed between table start and table end tags. And I'll get to these in just a minute. Here I want to simply highlight that there's a couple, 3 different views you can approach this at. Here's another one, another HTML email, which looks somewhat different. The logo on the left, a little bit of a blurb at the top, and everything moved up a little bit with a slightly different styling. So let's talk about the way the template is laid out here. We've got placeholders. So donor name, for example, is a placeholder. Everything else around here, of course, is generic boilerplate text that we want to include in the template, the logo and the company name and so on. And the placeholders are the ones that are delimited by double curlies. So this notation is different from the Salesforce notation, if you will. In the native Salesforce email, you would use the curly bang followed by a name followed by a right curly, one single left curly, exclamation point, and then the name, and then one single right curly. That notation is also recognized by Apsona. In other words, Apsona is able to use both this placeholder notation and the other one that Salesforce allows for. But not all of Apsona's names obviously are recognized by Salesforce. Also, these names are purely arbitrary. I didn't really make them up based on any available dictionary of allowed names. When I made up these names, I simply threw in a name here. I said donor name, email, and so on, without paying attention to where that data is coming from in Salesforce. So when I'm designing this template, I'm only going to focus on the significance of the individual items that show up in that template. Later on, we will establish a correlation between that name and where it comes from in Salesforce. So as far as editing this template is concerned, within Salesforce, you have this ability to edit the HTML version like this. and that's a little bit painful in that you've got the raw text or HTML. Of course, if you have HTML savvy skills, you can obviously add it in here. It is also possible to use Apsona's native email editor. So if I were to go into, let's see if I can find, that's the wrong org. Let's see if I can find Apsona in this org here. Within Apsona, the HTML editor that you saw a moment ago is also available for editing email templates. So if, as soon as it loads up here, give it a moment. If I were to go into this chevron here and pull up the email template object here and use the all records, the console view, and hit go, what I get is the list of email templates available in Salesforce, in the email template object. And there's the EOI tax summary template that we were looking at a moment ago. I click that record and hit edit template, and make me some room here, and then hit edit template. And you see that there's the template available in HTML view, and I can edit it here. And I have a few more tools up here, slightly better than what Salesforce offers, in that you've got ability to do fonts and sizes and include hyperlinks, include tables here. That's one thing that you don't have in the native Salesforce editor, and so on. And you also have the ability to click source and tweak the HTML with CSS if you wanted to make it look really fancy. So that ability is available here. So now let's go back into contacts, and let's send off a quick email using the template that we used a moment ago. So let's once again find that one person whom I want to send email to, and that's this one right here. I select that, and I say tools, merge mail this time. So this is where I'm going to be, I'm invoking the Apsona email generator, which is able to construct templatized emails. So within this merge action, I'm going to, let's say, run an existing merge action to begin with. Before I get into actually showing how to create that merge action, let's just say I'm going to run an existing merge action, which happens to be the HTML one. Where is that? Is it in here? Maybe it's in the account. Maybe it is in the account. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's find. Once again, I will need to find the correct email to send it to, because otherwise I'll get a flood of emails. And as I said earlier, this is for demo purposes that I've selected only one record. We can obviously send this email to lots of people simply by selecting the correct filter in here. So let's go into Tools, Merge Mail here, run an existing merge action, and let's find email merge here, that one right there, right? If I simply click next at this point, the email will be sent off based on the email template that we saw a moment ago, which is example 2, which is this one here. This one here. Right? So this is the template, and it looks like an invoice at the top right and a list of items below. When I use that template to send this off, hit next, and we just finished with the one email that was sent off. If we now go back to the email mailbox here and go back to the inbox, you see that there's that one invoice email that just arrived. When I hit it, it shows me the list of items in the invoice. So you can see that it's generated the personalized invoice for this one account. There's the customer name, the email, and the list of items. Notice also that it produced a total at the bottom, right? So that total happens to be automatically computed as a result of summing all of these things. And let's get to that in a minute here. Let's close this. Let's look at that email template one more time so that we can get a better sense of what's going on here. As I said earlier, each of these double curly, placeholder, double curly, represents one template variable, meaning that it's a value it's a place at which a value will be replaced. A substitution will happen. Customer name will be replaced with the name of the customer. Email, obviously, similar. And then a list of items showing the items to include in that invoice includes a name, a service date, and an amount. There is also this magic indicator that says items colon amount colon sum to say, find me the sum of the amount field of the items group. So here what we've done is this, within this row right here, we have introduced the idea of a record group, meaning a sub list of items that needs to be associated with this one record to which to send the email. And that sub list contains 3 fields. It contains a name, a service date, and an amount. And the name of that sublist happens to be items. So we're simply using table start as an indicator. Apsona requires table start to be an indicator saying that's the beginning of the list of items to replicate. And table end is the end of the list of items to replicate. So this whole row will be replicated into multiple rows in the output email, as we saw. And so within each row, we produce the name, the service date, and the amount. And outside that list, we want to produce the sum of the amounts. And so the way we produce that sum is we tell it to say, at this point, put in this placeholder, which stands for the items record group, which is the same as this record group right here, the amount field of that record group, which is this field up here, the sum of that field. So you see that any place that anywhere in the email that you put this reference, the corresponding sum will appear. So there's not a requirement that you have to have it at the bottom of that very column. If you contrast this, for example, with some of the other solutions out there, Conga, for example, they will have this thing called sum above, which basically says you can only put in the sum of the items that are immediately above this point. So there's a reference to wherever this thing appears. And we're not saying sum above or sum below or whatever. We're simply saying, make me the sum. And you can put this value anywhere in this list. So you can have for example, a blurb at the top saying, thank you for paying us. Here's the total amount. And that total amount can appear in the blurb above instead of underneath that column right there. So as far as how this action is built out, if we redo that process of doing a merge mail and run an existing merge action again, but this time what we'll do is actually work through the steps of how to associate the data values with the fields in that template. To do that, I'm going to say edit this action before running it, and when you do so, it'll take you through the same steps as it would take you if you did a create and run a new merge action. Of course, this step has this choice has a lot of other possibilities, document merge and email and spreadsheets and so on, which we won't get into. So let's just take this one case, and let's take the email merge and edit this action. And when we hit next this time, it will allow us to select the email template, which is the email template we have been discussing. It will allow us to select the field in the data source, in this case, the accounts object, from which the email address, the target email address is derived. As you can see here, the target email address for this account record was the email field, which is why we've selected that field over here. The sender field allows you to either default to the user who's sending it or to use any old org-wide email address in your Salesforce org. There's a whole mechanism around setting up org-wide email addresses so that you can have emails sent out that look like, for example, cxo@mycompany.com if you want, instead of always showing it as coming from sridhar@apsona.com. And then you have a reply to, which you can fill out if you want. When you hit next, what it does is extract the template fields from that template, which is the one we were looking at here. Not that one. Yes, this one right here. So these template fields are now recognized by the template processor, and it says I found a customer name and an email field, as you can see, and an invoice date. And it lets me match up each one of these fields with a corresponding field in the current object, in the accounts object. So we've already set it up so that it matches the account name for the customer name, the email matches the email, and so on. It also found a record group called items, and that's recognized here by saying where it's asking us to tell it what fields should appear. Where does the list of records for the record group called items come from, and what are those fields mapped to? And here we're saying the items group comes from the opportunity object, which we've selected here, and the fields of that items group come from respectively the opportunity name, which is that field right there, the close date of the opportunity, that one right there, and the amount of the opportunity. And then finally, we've got a linkage here saying we correlate based upon the account ID. So within each email address, within each email, we want to include only those opportunities that came from that email, from that account, which is why we say we want to make sure that the account ID of the account from which to which the email is being sent matches the opportunity account field of the opportunity object. So we only pull the opportunities for that account. And then lastly, when we hit next, in this step, we have the ability to do a bunch of logging. We can create a task each time this merge action is run. We can do attachments in the cases where we're generating more sophisticated emails with attachments involved. We can save each sent email in the activity history if we wanted to. We can also run it in test-only mode, so that if initially when we're playing around with a merge, we want to make sure that everything works okay, we can check this box so that all of the emails get sent to one email address. So we can take a look, make sure that everything's okay, and only then finally send it to everyone, unchecking this box. So that's all there is to this pop-up here. And of course, when I hit save and run now, it'll generate one more email that was sent out. And of course, and that'll show up here in a moment, hopefully. If I remove these and delete, there it is. That's the new invoice, like the new email that came through. We're rapidly running out of time, so I'm going to kind of stop at this point. I'm going to just say, first of all, thank you for attending this demo. Visit our website for more information. If you click this link on the Apsona UI, you'll be taken to our website where you can see details about all of these products. In particular, the one common question people ask is, what is the pricing for this thing? So when you click the pricing tab, here's a list of the prices for all of the products we have. In particular, this one here, the email document merge, is the one that we were talking about. For the nonprofits, there's a separate nonprofits page here, and in there you have a pricing section for the nonprofits as well. The other thing people ask about also is what mechanism does this email use to send? What transport mechanism does it use? And as I mentioned earlier, by default, it uses Salesforce to send out emails, and therefore it's limited by Salesforce's daily limits of, I think, 5,000 emails a day these days. But we also have an integration with Mailgun, so if you're interested in large volume emails, get a hold of us. We will help out. Now let's see if I can answer some questions. Let's see, is it possible to see? Let me go back up to the top. When sending emails, is there a feature to enable an attachment? Yes, it is possible to add attachments to emails in two ways. If you've set up an attachment to the email template in Salesforce, which is a static fixed attachment, it will accompany every one of those outbound emails. For example, you might want to send collateral. You might want to send an annual newsletter, which is a fixed collateral with a PDF in a PDF. You can do so by attaching it to the Salesforce email template. But you may also want to send PDFs that have statements and invoices, and you can do that as well. And we didn't get to talk about that, but basically in the email sender pop-up, you say you use the email and document merge feature, and you will then be able to send both the email and the attachment, both of which will be personalized. The EOI templates we will include, as people have asked for this, we will make all of these templates that we showed today available on our website, and so you'll be able to download them and include them. Let's see what else here. Oh, I did want to point out that other thing here. If we're in the website, if you go into the resources section, there's a bunch of links here that talk about samples that you would use. So, or for that matter, in the email piece itself. Let's see if I got. Yeah, this one, right? This is exactly the example we went over, the email merge with lists, and you can actually download this markup into your into your Salesforce org and use it directly if you wanted to. So, any other questions? Doesn't look like it. So we're at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to stop here. Let's see. Oh, someone asked one more question. The integration with Mailgun does collect information about bad email addresses and bounces and unsubscribes and so on. So for that, you would get into your Mailgun account, and it contains a lot of that information about what email addresses were bounced and which ones were, unsubscribed and so on. And we're happy to work with you on that if you wanted to. And thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate this opportunity. Look forward to working with you again. There's something about costs for integration with Mailgun. Let us know, and we'll reach out to us by email. We'll answer all those questions. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful holiday and a great new year. Bye.